to another edition of Lovin Daily. I'm your host, Jonathan Cilia. Today I'm joined by Yannick Poch. I hope you had a great Imnara yesterday. We had another big day in Malta, of course. Let's jump to the headlines for today. Nila Juice has hit the 90-kilometer mark in his incredible world record-breaking swim attempt. The Giorgio brothers have requested a meeting with Europol over their rejected pardons. A Maltese youth has been left unable to plan for his future after his heart condition gets in the way of him getting a loan. Police have banned artists from protesting in Valletta against COVID-19 regulations, and Roberta Metsola has defended her anti-abortion vote by arguing that the European Parliament report did not respect Malta's right to decide for itself. If you haven't yet signed up for Lovin Digest, I don't know what you're waiting for, definitely sign up for it. You can find it on our website, lovinmalta.com. It's the easiest and simplest way to get the latest news and analysis right into your inbox. Yannick?
So, as we said, our first story is about endurance swimmer Nila Juice, who's currently in the middle of his attempt at breaking the world record for the longest open water swim. Juice left from the island of Linosa to the north of Lampedusa on Monday night and is swimming all the way to Malta. The current world record stands at 124.4 kilometers, which is just, in Nila Juice terms, 24.4 kilometers longer than his Sicily to Malta swim last year. He's currently hit the 90-kilometer mark and is expected in Malta later this evening, though it will depend a bit on a number of factors along the way. Neil is being accompanied by 5 sailing boats and 2 ribs on his journey, with a team of roughly 32 people assisting him. They've been posting regular updates about how he's faring. Just over an hour ago, they reported that he had swam some 85 kilometers and was starting the final third of his journey. He initially struggled a bit with high waves and currents, especially during the first night. He also had some ankle pain to contend with, but it seems that the conditions have started to turn in his favor. The current is now helping him in his journey to Malta, and it seems that everyone's in good spirits all around, including Neil himself. In fact, his pace has increased from an average of 2.5 kilometers per hour to 3.2 kilometers per hour, so significantly faster. And it looks like he's going to make it.
No, it's super impressive. If you're not following Nila Juice on social media, definitely check him out. Follow his page. Follow Wave of Change as well. No, it's honestly impressive. So he's supposed to be landing in Malta this evening, quite late, somewhere maybe after 9, 10, maybe even approaching midnight. But I'm expecting, a lot of people to turn out to welcome him back onto the island. I think Lovin Malta will be there as well. As you mentioned himself, he's had a lot of obstacles. He's battling ankle pain, and let's not forget that he had to change his original leaving location from Tunisia after weather set in. So we'll definitely be following that. And if you haven't checked out the tracker that's actually live tracking him as well, definitely check that out. It's very interesting to see him moving through the Mediterranean, just one man pushing through it all. So interesting. Moving on to the next story, 2 of the alleged triggermen in the murder of Maltese journalist Daphne Caruana Galizia have now reached out to Europol, the European Union's law enforcement agency, requesting a face-to-face meeting. So Alfred and George De Giorgio, they've been charged with murder, do not forget, have reached out to the executive director of Europol, the deputy executive director of Europol, Will van Gemert, asking for a face-to-face meeting now. This is very interesting because if you remember just a month ago, they had wrote to the European Commissioner for Justice, Didier Reynders, asking similarly for a meeting. They said that they wanted to speak to these authorities because they believe they weren't being treated fairly in Malta as far as their pardons went. And they said that they have a lot of interesting information that these authorities would like to see. Do you think there's any chance that Europol actually accept this meeting?
I somehow doubt it. To a certain extent, it must be said that Europol are assisting the Maltese police in their investigation, so presumably Europol are aware of quite a few aspects about these cases. But ultimately it's all part of a strategy by their legal teams. They've tried everything, they've filed every form of constitutional case, and it's part of a strategy. I mean, it's interesting actually to question where the money is coming from for all of this. This has been raised a number of times in the past because their defense is a very expensive one. So it begs the question as to who's funding it. But no, in terms of this latest request, I wouldn't expect there to be much change as a result of it. On to our next story. It's an interesting story about a Maltese youth who's been left feeling lost after encountering difficulties getting a home loan as a result of a heart condition he has. So the young man, Mark Anthony Cremona, like many other people his age, would like to buy his own house with his girlfriend, and after identifying the place they'd like to buy, started with the process of getting a bank loan. So far so good. It's kind of what everyone goes through. Unfortunately though, when it came to the point that he needed to take out life insurance in order to get the home loan, he was immediately denied by the first insurance company that he contacted. He was denied insurance on the basis of his heart condition. It seems that he has reached out to a number of others. While they haven't all flat out rejected his application, he's found a lot of difficulties, with some of them saying, you need to wait for your next test in a year, because it is a condition that he gets tested quite regularly. Others have told him he cannot apply for a loan for insurance until he gets a COVID vaccine, quite strangely. So anyway, he's been left feeling quite lost, because in a sense, like without a loan, he said, I can't afford to buy a house. One understands that maybe it's a rare condition and maybe insurance companies aren't as well equipped to deal with these issues, but at the end of the day, you also feel for the guy, because unable to move on in life.
Absolutely. No, I think this story, shines a spotlight on, a situation, circumstances that you might not, think about on a day-to-day basis. In fact, a local organization, Beating Hearts Malta, explained that, they told Love Malta that this actually happens more than you'd think. There are other people that experience very similar problems. Remember, so this guy had a congenital heart defect, but there could be other conditions that fall into similar circumstances. Now, the association's been trying to find a solution for this, and in fact, they're even in talks with government, and the government's in talks with stakeholders over this. But yes, it does seem to be a situation that isn't very often talked about. Remember, this is someone who's functioning by any other means. He's got a partner, he's in society, he's working. So by all other means, this is a functioning member of society that's being denied a way to plan for his future.
There are people the system hasn't catered for, and maybe because of the fact that there aren't that many, to be fair. But it is something that definitely merits the attention of authorities in order to find a solution.
No, we'll definitely be following the story. So
definitely.
Stay tuned to Love Malta for more developments on this. Moving on to the next story. So a protest that was organized by Maltese entertainers, musicians and artists was meant to happen a couple of weeks back, was postponed, was going to happen this week, but will not be happening actually, now that police have officially said that they do not give permission for this protest to be held. So it's very interesting. We've got a situation where there's artists wanting to hold a protest against COVID-19 regulations, and because of COVID-19 regulations, they will not be able to hold the protest. So this was meant to be organized by the Malta Entertainment Industry and Arts Association, who have now taken to social media saying that this evening they'll be holding a live press conference on Facebook in lieu of the protest. But this is quite a shocking situation. I don't know about your social media feed, but mine was full of DJs and musicians and artists, saying this was just the latest case of discrimination by Maltese authorities against entertainers in Malta.
It does seem like a weird decision in the sense that I can remember quite a few protests. I can think of quite a few protests that have, fine, maybe not that many, but it's COVID restrictions haven't stopped many other protests from taking place. So it'll be interesting to find out exactly why the police felt that this one shouldn't go ahead.
The police said this is due to ongoing COVID-19 regulations, but like you said, there was the Black Lives Matter protest last year in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. There have been a number of street protests against COVID-19 regulation. There was
Anti-mask
anti-mask
protests,
protests as well along the Slima front. So there have been some protests in the streets. This was meant to be a seated protest, interestingly enough, even more so. So, the plans were very social distance. It was all according to regulations. However, the police have said no.
I mean, we'll have to wait and see, I guess.
There you
But I
go.
mean, it's very difficult to explain, I'll be honest. So on to our final story. Nationalist MEP Roberta Metsola has defended a vote in the European Parliament, a vote against the report, which among other things described abortion as a human right. Last week, the European Parliament voted on a report about sexual health and reproductive rights in general, but the report also had dealt with abortion. Basically, the report called for such services to be made available all across the EU. Metsola was one of three Maltese MEPs to vote against the report, the others being Nationalist Party MEP David Casa and Labour MEP Alex Ajus Saliba. Labour MEPs Josiane Cotay and Alfred Sand both abstained, while Cyrus Enger was the only person to vote in favour of it. Lovin Malta reached out to Metsola to ask for an explanation of the vote, and she explained that essentially, many people might not know, but when Malta joined the EU, it negotiated this agreement, which is annexed to the Malta's accession treaty, which basically states that no matter what happens in the EU, no changes in legislation can force Malta to change its abortion laws. Basically, it ensures that the decision is only taken by the Maltese Parliament. And in her reply, Metsola explained that these reports very often come before MEPs. First of all, she pointed out that the PN delegation has always been consistent in the way it has voted, and she also pointed out that there's no use giving people the impression that MEPs or the EU can somehow determine what happens with abortion in Malta. She said, in fact, that she voted in favour of all the other aspects of the report, but couldn't vote in favour of the final report because of this issue with abortion.
Abortion remains possibly the last taboo topic in Malta, but it keeps rearing its head. And let's be very clear: there's a new generation of men and women who have very progressive, very liberal views on abortion. So it really may only be a matter of time until it comes to Malta. I mean, let's not forget, just last month, independent MP Marlene Farrugia tabled a private member's bill calling for it to be decriminalized in Malta. Now, this was shut down by both major parties in Malta, the Nationalist and the Labour Party, but it just goes to show, it keeps rising up, it's really only a matter of time before a proper discussion, maybe even a referendum, is held on this. I think that brings us to the end of today's episode. Both from myself and Yannick, have a day full of lovin'.